In this tutorial session, we're going to focus on returning a value from a function. A defined function can process information, then send back a value to the calling function. The value is sent back using a return statement, and the value is called a return value. First step is to create a defined function with the name like add_numbers. At this point, Python allows us to set the amount of parameters for our function. The purpose is to provide how many values to send to this add numbers function. Our parameter will be number. We're going to add number plus number. Now, when it comes to this function, it will be adding a number by itself, number plus number. Now, let's call the add numbers function, then pass in 5 as the argument. Also, print the value. When we run, the console shows none. None is a reserved keyword that serves as the absence of a value. We see none because our defined function does not have a return keyword before number plus number. This line is a return statement which consists of a return keyword and a value or expression. Number plus number is an expression that will be returned to the calling function. Let's execute. And this time we see 10 in the console. The reserved keyword also shows up if we forget to add a value or an expression. Remove number plus number, then run. We see none again in the console. Like the parameters and arguments tutorial session, we can also use our defined function to accept more than one parameter. The parameters will be number 1 and number 2. Let's also add total equals number 1 plus number 2. Battery running low. Let's return a value and not an expression. The value will be total. Now, when we run, we're going to call this number 1 parameter and number 2 parameter, but we're going to leave 5 as the number 1 argument and 10 for the number 2 parameter, and 10 will be the argument. We must be careful to not generate unreachable code with a return statement. Unreachable code is also called dead code because the program will never execute that code. After the return statement, we write print the total is, then run. All we see is 15. Hover this print statement, and it says this code is unreachable. Move the print statement before the return statement, then run. The console shows the total is 15, but 15 is on a separate line. Let me show you how to print 15 on the same line using a keyword argument. Do you recall in one of the previous sessions when we investigated the print function, built-in print function? Okay, so it has parameters as SCP and end. The docstring comment shows SCP is a string inserted between the values, default a space. If we insert a comma, then a comma will be inserted between each value. However, END is a string appended after the last value. Default a new line. Let's go back to our program. Then add a comma, end equals, empty quotes, empty value. This will no longer insert a new line. One more concept I want to show you. Right now, we are calling the function with print add numbers. If you want to, you can store the return value by writing a variable like result equals add numbers 5, 10. We would get 15 from the defined by adding 10 plus 5. Next, the total 15 is returned to add numbers 5, 10. Now, when we store the result into a variable, let's print the result. Execute. The total is 15 on the same line. That's it for Python, return values and statements. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next session.